So thank you very much for inviting me to present some results from our project, the Eat Addis project, we call it. My name is Eva-Charlotte Ekström, and as said, I'm Professor of Global Nutrition at Uppsala University. There are 3 more universities involved in this project. We have Addis Continental Institute of Public Health, and Addis Ababa is the place where the field work for this research has been done. We have Lund University, as well as the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And you can see our collaborators' name here. The aim of the project is rather specific, or at least the aim which I'm going to present here, and that is to evaluate the importance of food availability in the residential areas for family diet diversity. In this project, we focus on families with preschool children. This is, of course, because we know that this population group is very much prone to malnutrition. But it's also because we want to highlight the role of women for family diet. Having young children in the family put much pressure on the mother's ability to negotiate competing demands, such as her use of time, her use of finances, as well as on making decision on what foods to eat. I think that most of us know already this. The focus on women and children made us also to decide to focus on the residential food environment, as we presume that the mothers and children spend most of their time there. We also, as in complementary to the main aim, wanted to contrast the importance of food availability to the importance of household wealth and maternal education. The study was conducted, as I said, in Addis Ababa, and we collected data covering the whole city. All districts were included in 2 survey rounds. The first survey, 117 districts, and the second, 116 districts. 116 because 2 districts were merged in the second. In each of these districts, we randomly selected 1 residential area or cluster. So we have 233 residential areas which we investigated. In each of these residential areas, we selected 20 to 25 households, and one of these households was also randomly selected for conducting a food environment survey. So in the surrounding of that household, we surveyed all vendors within 5 minutes walking distance. The part of the project which I'm presenting relates to healthy foods. So in order to depict what healthy foods is, we developed 11 food groups, which we call family food groups. This grouping is departing from the 10 food groups used for defining minimum dietary diversity for women. One of the difference from that grouping is that we split the vitamin A rich foods into 3 groups because we do think that they have different drivers. For this study, we wanted to have a common metrics for the food environment as well as for that of the family diet. So we used these 11 food groups to define both the family diet diversity, which is the consumption, as well as to define the food availability in the residential areas. We visited more than 5,000 households. By use of these food groups, we collected information on consumption by the family members the last 24 hours. Using that data, we computed an indicator, family diet diversity, between 0 and 11, depicting how many of the food groups, of the 11 food groups, that the families had been eating. I'll see that the breakout room will close very soon, so something is happening here.
Yes, please go ahead. It will be helpful.
Okay, we collected
for 5 more minutes.
So we also collected data which we could use to develop indicators of household wealth and maternal education. For vendors, we surveyed 2,568 vendors, and we used a list of food groups. And for each of the vendors, we recorded which food groups that were available. So, and we had information on vendors and the food groups sold there. From the vendor data, we constructed indicators of the availability of family foods for each of the residential areas. We had 233 residential areas. And you can notice that the metrics we use for family diet diversity and for the availability of family foods are similar or the same. We also use data on the household level to aggregate and get indicators of the wealth and maternal education status of each residential area. So some of the results here, we look at family food availability. On average, 7.6 of the 11 food groups were available in residential areas. Most common were cereals and roots, legumes, nuts and seeds, as well as eggs, etc. For the family diet diversity, we can notice that the consumption was lower in terms of diversity than what was available. So on average, 4.8 of the food groups were consumed, where the same food groups are common here, the cereals, other vegetables, and legumes. And what we can see that it's rapidly deteriorating consumption for the other food groups. We can notice that of the food groups that were consumed, although it varied between the different food groups, about 50% was actually purchased within 5 minutes walking distance from the house. So for this, we can conclude that the availability is high for the most commonly consumed foods, but lower in terms of micronutrient-rich foods. We can also conclude that family diet is limited in diversity and in particular of the micronutrient-rich foods. To evaluate the association between food availability and family diet diversity, we used linear mixed models. In the different statistical models, we included both characteristics at the residential area level. We have here our key factor of interest, the availability of family foods, categorized into 3 levels. We have the residential wealth, we have the residential maternal education. In the model also we have household wealth and maternal education. What you see in the graph is the mean number of food groups consumed in the different strata and the difference here. What we can quickly see here is that while significantly lower consumption of different foods in the lowest food availability group, it is a very tiny difference, only 0.2 food groups. In contrast, we can see that household wealth and maternal education matter substantially more in terms of making a difference for family diet diversity. Going from the highest to the lowest, we have a reduction in more than one food group, and the same for maternal education. So, to conclude, in this setting, it appears that food availability does not play a major role for family diet diversity. So with that, and the picture of the team or part of the teams, I would like to thank you. I want also to signal that there will be 2 more interesting presentations, the 17th of November by 2 of my colleagues on the same project. Thanks.